Hey there, what did you say? What about listening? How are we at listening? This is certainly a appropriate topic for interviewing, but it's a appropriate topic across the board, actually. How good are our listening skills? I remember growing up, my dad often said to me, Mark, you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. Use them. So do we listen well? Recent research would indicate that we're not good listeners, that we in fact have so many distractions that we're not listening very well. I just read a study last week on the issue of attention span. You understand that our attention span is down to about 8 seconds. It's a little bit less than a goldfish at this point in time. Now, there's lots of reasons why that's happened. We've become very used to instant gratification of answers right away. There's a good indication that technology has had a lot to do with this, with our connection to our cell phone, our connection to our tablets. We got to get on there. We got to find stuff. Everything's in short blurbs, and that certainly had a impact on our interviewing. It's had an impact on the way we ask questions, and it certainly has had an impact on the way that we listen to the answers. Are we actually listening, or are we just hearing what's being said? Are we listening to understand that person we're talking to, or are we listening to think of what's next is going to come out of our mouth? Are we preparing for that next question? Are we preparing for, does this fit into my preconceived notion, my investigator or auditor bias as to what I expect to be said in these situations? So we're not really good at listening. And when we're not good at listening, think of that cascading effect that has on the rest of the interview process, because it has a negative impact on our ability to develop rapport. If we're listening, how do we develop rapport? You've got people like that in your life, I'm sure. You're actually not sure they're actually listening to you when you're talking to them. So we have to listen in order to understand, in order to develop rapport and establish that commonality. Does it have an effect on our questioning? It certainly has an effect on the way we ask questions, because we can't be as specific or as personal in our question asking if we're not listening to what's being said. And it has an impact on our ability to develop themes. How do we develop themes in a situation if we're not listening to the person and understanding what's important to them, what has an impact on them, and all the rest? So we really have to listen in order to understand, in order to develop those themes. And then also it has an impact on our ability to handle denials. If we don't understand that person, we don't have a good feel for who they are, we haven't developed good rapport, then it becomes much harder to handle denials that might come across the table later on in the interview, when the person doesn't want to take responsibility or doesn't want to be responsible. So we have to listen in order to be able to do all those things well. And we have to listen without bias or judgment. If we come in with the preconceived notion this person is responsible for this, that, or the other, then how well are we actually listening? I've heard that from individuals before. Why do I need to do this interview? I know that they're guilty. Well, there's a lot of other things we need to find out in that interview situation. So we want to practice listening in every conversation. And this isn't going to hurt you in any aspect of your life, in your interactions with business people, in your interactions with your family, in your work interactions with supervisors and peers. Good listening is actually going to set you apart, and more as time goes on, set you apart from your colleagues if you learn how to listen really well. So we have to make a full effort to practice it right all the time, because then that becomes an issue of habit. And when we establish those habits, they're going to be easy to continue in the interview room. So what do I say? What are the things we need to do here in order to listen? Let's just cover a couple things here that might be useful to you to do in order to listen better. Okay, so here's some things to listen better. We want to be attentive. We want to use all of our senses. We want to be focused on that person and really be paying attention. So what does that mean? put down your pen, stop writing notes, stop thinking of the next thing you're going to say, and be focused on that person. We want to listen to understand. Are we applying our biases and our beliefs to this person, or are we seeking to understand where they are? You understand that importance of that is to rapport, is to questions, is to themes. It's very important. We want to ask more open-ended and probing questions. And when we ask those questions, when we start getting an answer, what we don't want to do is institute our type A personality and interrupt that answer. We want to listen to that answer, process that answer with good active listening, and then form your next steps in the interview process. We want to request clarifications and paraphrase responses as necessary to ensure that what they're saying is what you're hearing and not that you're just hearing whatever you choose to hear. And don't be afraid to do that, because there's another benefit there under the whole law of reciprocity, which is by feeding that information back to them, you've proven to them that you're listening, which increases respect and increases trust. So there's no harm, no foul in doing that in an interview. And then don't be distracted. Don't allow those things around you to distract you. Keep your focus. If you need a break to get a cup of coffee, take a break, get a cup of coffee, refocus in that scenario that you're in. Withhold judgment. It's not your job to judge anyhow. It's your job to be a fact finder and maximize the amount of truthful information you receive. Judging is the responsibility of someone else. And then don't be afraid to slow down and practice silence. Sometimes our bad listening comes from the fact that we think we have to be ready with a question as soon as they're done with their answer. So we're thinking of that question while they're coming up with their answer, and we're not listening to what they're saying. Slow it down. Slow it down. And silence is our friend. Take advantage of silence, because oftentimes during that silence, the person will add additional information if that silence goes on too long. We know we get uncomfortable with silence, but we shouldn't be the one to break that. And then no matter the length or the complexity in the interview, summarize information at the end, summarize what's been said to you at the end. It's so important to do. It tells them that you are listening. It allows them to add additional information. It is at the end of the interview, so the stress level and the cognitive load on the person is decreasing, which causes them sometimes to share more. So lots of things that we can do in the interview room to be a better listener. And I would really suggest to you that we need to do that in all aspects of our life, but especially in the realm of interviewing. If you want more information on this issue of listening, don't be afraid to reach out to me. If you have another suggestion on a topic you'd like me to cover, please reach out to me and give it to me. I'm going to be covering probably a baker's dozen of common interview mistakes and faux pas that interfere with our ability to be effective interviewers. And this is just the first of those. So thank you for your time today. Have a great day, and be safe out there.